Ready for dictation, start. That the applicant number 2 is minor, so the above noted application on his behalf has been filed through his next friend, his natural guardian, his mother Baljeet Kaur, applicant number 1, who has no adverse interest to that of minor applicant number 2. An affidavit to this effect is attached herewith that the marriage between the applicant number 1 and respondent was solemnized on 29/11/2015 according to Sikh rites by way of Anand Karaj ceremony. One male child, namely Jaskaran Singh, was born on 22/2/2017 out of wedlock of applicant number 1 and respondent. That after the marriage, the applicant number 1 used to reside with the respondent and used to perform all marital obligations towards the respondent as dutiful wife and towards all the family members of the respondent. That sufficient dowry articles were given to the applicant number 1 by her parents and relatives in her marriage, which were entrusted to the respondent and his family members and relatives at the time of departure of dowry of applicant number 1. That after the very first day of marriage, the respondent and his family members started demanding more dowry from the applicant number 1, but the applicant number 1 shown her inability to fulfill their said illegal demand. Then the respondent, at the instance of his family members, beaten the applicant number 1 for not bringing more dowry from her parents. It became the daily routine of the respondent to beat and maltreat the applicant number 1 daily. That the respondent is a habitual drunkard and he came late hours in the night after taking liquor and intoxicants, and it was the daily routine of the respondent to beat and maltreat the applicant number 1. But the applicant number 1 passed her time in her matrimonial house with the hope that good sense will prevail upon the respondent sooner or later, but all in vain. That in the first week of April 2019, the respondent refused to maintain the applicants and turned out the applicant number 1 from her matrimonial house in 3 clothes after beating her mercilessly along with minor child, and ultimately on 29/4/2019 a compromise was effected by which the respondent broken all ties with the applicant number 1, and thereafter the applicant number 1 started to reside in her parental house at the mercy of her parents. That again in the first week of February 2020, the respondent reached in her in-laws' house and assured the applicant number 1 that he will keep and maintain the applicants in nice manner in his house, and he will not beat or maltreat the applicant number 2 in future. And as such, the respondent took back the applicants in his house, but after few days the respondent again started to beat and maltreat the applicant number 1, and ultimately the respondent refused to maintain the applicants and turned out the applicant number 1 from her matrimonial house in three clothes after beating her mercilessly along with minor child in the month of May 2020, and since then the applicants are residing in her parental house as the parents of the applicant number 1 are in old age and are unable to maintain the applicant's